Hej från Visby, which in Swedish means hello from Visby, from the Swedish land of gods, from Gotland. Today we'll be talking about one of the most undervalued principles in business. It is called the hub strategy. What it is, you will find in the next part. What is the most undervalued principle in business that most people aren't aware of, and if they are, they don't use it or they don't use it sufficiently? This principle is called hub strategy. What is a strategy in business? Strategy in business is your game plan. It's the steps you want to take in order to win a competitive advantage in your industry or generally to make profit. And the hub strategy is best explained by the location I am in. I am right now in Visby, and Visby is the capital of Gotland. Gotland is an island in Baltic Sea, and in the Middle Ages and before, Baltic Sea was the hub or the center of trade in Northern Europe, because transportation took place mainly on waterways. It was extremely difficult to move weights on land, but it was relatively easy to move goods on waterways. So all trade was happening practically around the sea and at the river banks. And the island of Gotland was strategically positioned in the middle of Baltic Sea. So when you were traveling from the west of the Baltic Sea to the east of the Baltic Sea, or vice versa, you were practically forced to stop in Gotland and to do some reparation maybe of your ship, or maybe take rest or refuel your water, resupply your foods. And of course the people in Gotland took that opportunity to trade with you. So they were trading with the people coming from the east and from the people coming from the west. So sometimes you didn't need to go to the east when you were coming from the west, because you could actually get the goods you wanted to get at Gotland. Maybe they were slightly more expensive, but you saved the time to travel to the east, and of course the risk of losing your ship, or of sinking, or of being robbed at the sea. So it was easier for you to trade at Gotland, because it was like the marketplace of the Middle Ages or of the ancient times. And you can't imagine how extensive the people in Gotland used that position, this center position in the center of the Baltic Sea. They not only traded with the countries around the Baltic Sea directly, they traded with the countries practically in entire Europe and as far as Middle East and further. How do we know that? Imagine that from all the founds of Roman coins, so ancient Roman coins from ancient Rome, right? In the northern Europe, in the northeastern Europe, meaning from the territories that didn't belong to the Roman Empire in Europe. 70% of all the coins found on these territories were found on Gotland. So the people from Gotland, they practically monopolized the trade with the Roman Empire from all the nations, or from all the countries in Northern Europe. They were the traders. And also in Middle Ages and before that, for example, the Vikings, they were not only warriors, they were first of all great traders, and they were trading with everybody. And you were practically forced more or less to trade with them, to make a stop at Gotland. And if you didn't stop at Gotland, you were maybe attacked at the sea and had to negotiate with them and whatever. So that's why people were fearful of Vikings at these times, because they were ruthless, traders than turning warriors if you didn't want to trade with them, if you wanted to omit them in your commercial ventures. And how do we know that? Because, you know, of all the founds, like of all the treasures of Vikings in the entire world, most of them were found on Gotland. So there are over 700 Viking treasures found on Gotland. And for example, a treasure found in 1999, a Viking treasure, consisted of 40 pounds of silver, and there were also some jewelry, some bracelets, and so on and so on. But among others, there were 10,000 silver coins from over 20 countries. And I will read to you what countries were they trading with, what countries did they have the coins from. So you wouldn't be surprised by coins from Germany or from Russia, because they were close to these countries, right? Gotland is close to Germany, to Russia, but they had also English coins, they had also Spanish coins, they had coins from Tunisia, they had coins as far as from Armenia or Azerbaijan, so Caucasus Mountains, then Egypt, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, and they were trading as far as even Syria, Saudi Arabia, or Yemen. So it's unbelievable how far their connections reached. And this resulted in unbelievable wealth for these times, for these ancient times. So Gotland was extremely rich in Middle Ages, and let's say in early and late Middle Ages. And for example, Visby is a medieval town that apparently was extremely rich. I mean, I have visited half the world, but I have never seen such a huge medieval town. Because, you know, in medieval times, in Middle Ages, you had to put walls around your town, around your city, because otherwise it was raided. So these walls, they are the largest, or they encapsulate a huge, an unbelievable huge area, 3.5 kilometers, let's say over 2 miles of walls that are pretty much preserved. They are like 27 towers, standing towers, and 9 hanging towers that are still preserved. So the area within the walls, it's so huge. I have never seen a medieval town so huge and so powerful like Visby. And believe me, I have visited many medieval towns in Europe, and this somehow proves how powerful and how affluent Visby was at that time. And why did it become so affluent? Because it was situated in the center of this trade system in Northern Europe. But people from Gotland didn't consciously follow the hub strategy. They were just situated in the center of the system by chance, more or less, because they were born on that island, right? But in business, you can actually follow this strategy. You can take this example and follow that strategy. And how can you follow that strategy? There are 2 ways to do that. First of all, you can make yourself an irreplaceable part of a system, of a given system that you operate in. How can you do that? By your skills. You can do it by services that you provide that nobody else provides, or maybe by your knowledge that nobody else has, or maybe by your connections. You can do that. Or you can put yourself somehow in a center of that system and connect to the others, and be, so to say, the hub of the system, be the connector, be the facilitator somehow for others in that system. And I give you some examples from businesses of today, of businesses who followed that strategy, and you will see yourself that it really works. Let's take the first business, Apple. Apple is the most precious company in our times. Just several days before, I read the capitalization of Apple went over $2 trillion. $2 trillion. This is the most valuable company of our times. And Apple didn't become so wealthy and so valuable by just selling computers or by selling stuff, by selling electronics. No, Apple became so valuable because it created two marketplaces and becoming a hub, at least in two industries. The first marketplace that it created was the marketplace for the music industry, the iTunes. And Apple gets a cut from every download in iTunes store. So this is music industry, this is also film industry. Apple, of course, has a substantial share in the distribution in the music industry and the film industry. It became practically irreplaceable for these two industries to distribute these products. They more or less have to use this channel if they want to get revenue. But of course, they have to share the revenue with Apple. So Apple gets a cut from every download, from every music, from every film download there. And the other platform, of course, that Apple created is the Apple Store. So if you want to offer a paid service for iPhone, an app for iPhone that charges people for usage, you have to share your revenue with Apple, and Apple gets a huge cut of your revenue, like 30% of your revenue. Of course, you want to participate in that because you want to somehow cater to the needs of billions of users of iPhone hardware, but you have to share your revenue with Apple. So Apple became irreplaceable in several industries. So let's look at another example, Amazon. The guy who created Amazon, Jeff Bezos, is today the wealthiest person on the planet. And Amazon just created a marketplace that offered people an opportunity to sell their goods globally, to sell their goods to everybody in the world. And they don't need to bother for money collection, for payments. They just offer these goods on the platform, on Amazon platform, and of course Amazon gets a cut of their revenue. So these are really the hubs of industries, these marketplaces. But another example would be, for example, Google, who started to offer a service that quickly became irreplaceable for most people and most businesses, the search engine. The search engine is such a useful tool that you can't imagine life today without Google's search engine. And then they can offer, of course, additional services around search that create revenue because they are irreplaceable as a service in this one aspect. I wonder what are your examples of services, of businesses that use this strategy and how successful they became with that strategy. I invite you to leave a comment below this video, and I also invite you to think about how you can use this strategy in your business and give me your ideas below this video in the comments. That's it from Visby today, from Gotland, from the land of the gods in Sweden. I hope you like this video. If yes, give me a thumb up. If not, of course, thumb down. I invite you to leave a comment. What do you think about the topics we were talking about? What is your opinion? What is your experience in that topic? Share this video with your loved ones, with your friends. One day they will thank you for that. I talk here about business on the highest level, on the level of the best entrepreneurs in the world, of the self-made billionaires. I talk here a lot about doing great, big, impossible things in your life and business. So if you like this video, you will certainly like my other videos. I invite you to watch them. That's it for today from Visby. I wish you a fantastic day. Let's do something extraordinary today.